Okay, well, that was the first one down, many to go. Many interesting things on the program yet to come. But up next, we're very honored to have Joanna Shields with us next. She is, of course, the chief executive of the Tech City Investment Organization, which is one of the organizations very much involved in the ecosystem and helping to foster the startup scene here in London. And with her and being interviewing her is Matt Cowan, who is a writer and broadcaster who has written for Wired, Reuters, and other media outlets. So please welcome them on stage. Thank you.
Great. Oops.
Hi. So, he's on.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm switched on. Can everyone hear me?
No.
Okay. Uh-oh. I can shout, or someone can switch me on. This is a nice room. All right. Thank you very much. Hello. Hello.
Perfect.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. So, Joanna, we're back at LeWeb.
Yes.
I saw you in Paris, I think, on your first day in this job. So you've got 6 months experience in the role so far. How's it been going? What are your impressions? What have you been doing?
Well, this is my first role, of course, outside of the private sector, having worked, 27 years in tech companies. And I think the one thing I found most surprising is how quickly we're getting things done. I mean, you think working in a government role, you would be slowed down somehow, but there's so much momentum and energy around Tech City and what's happening in London and all across the country, for that matter, in terms of technology. It's our fastest growing segment of the economy, and it's really exciting. So I'm surprised at how much we're actually getting accomplished.
And you've been traveling quite a bit. So
Yeah.
You've been in Israel, I think the US, UAE recently.
Europe.
What are the messages you're bringing across, and what are people's impressions of Tech City?
Well, one of the things we're trying to get across is how vibrant and exciting London is as a city. We're so happy to have LeWeb here with us. And if you look at London, it has everything all in one geographic area. You have the urban diversity of New York. You've got the vibrant advertising and digital media sector here. You have the television and film industry, just like Los Angeles, and you have government, the seat of government here, and a receptive government. So what we've been doing is we've been around Europe and the Middle East and Israel and the U.S. trying to make people understand that if you want to grow your business outside of your country, or if you want to find a location that's really receptive to the needs of entrepreneurs, London is definitely it.
You've also, I know, been out over near Fashion Street. I'm not sure where Unruly Media is based now, but my notepad is Unruly, I guess, according to Deloitte, the fastest growing technology company in London. You made an announcement along with George Osborne, the Chancellor. What was that?
Well, a lot of what Tech City's been all about in the first couple of years was about supporting entrepreneurs. So London has, and the UK has, a globally leading set of policies to support entrepreneurs. Everything from, fantastic capital gains, rates, which are the lowest in the G20, and lowest corporate tax rates. And what we looked at, though, is we've been doing a lot to support the early stage businesses, but we needed to support the high growth businesses. Because in the past, when your business became very successful, a lot of companies would cross over and list on NASDAQ. So what we did in the last few months is we launched something called the high growth segment on the London Stock Exchange. And what that is we dropped the free float requirement, and you only have to put on the market 10% of your equity, but you can actually go to the public markets, and it gets you that ability, the liquidity that you need to build and support your business for the long haul. And alongside of that, at Unruly Media, we launched something called the Future 50. So right now, we're on a hunt for the 50 fastest growing, most exciting companies who would like to list on our exchange. And we're going to help them with a concierge service, everything they need, from support getting visas to hire people to whatever they need, the work they need to be done with HMRC. If they need support expanding their business overseas, we'll help them with UKTI resources in 94 consulates around the world. So basically rolling out the red carpet for businesses that want to list and make their home here in the UK.
And what is the reason for that ultimately? Because I'm sure you're aware that some question whether it's really government's role to be involved in helping business and technology businesses in this way. What sort of difference can you make?
Well, I think, technology is our fastest growing sector, and, entrepreneurship, we believe, is the way out of the economic crisis that we're in, especially for, young people. We have the highest unemployment across Europe in the ages 16 to 30, and it's reached a really desperate proportion in a lot of countries. So entrepreneurship is that, change agent. Innovation is the way out of that. And the tech sector in the UK is growing at 11% per annum. And if you look at all the economic indicators, that is the highest sector of any across the country.
But do you get the sense whether you're moving the needle, whether Tech City as an organization is changing things, or has it yet?
Well, Tech City, to me, is, it's this group of, I don't know, neighborhoods, if you will, in East London. And around that, it's really about the community. It's not really about a government initiative. It's about recognizing this thing that's happening and supporting it to make sure it grows to the next stage. What we found, though, is not only is it happening in East London, which is really incredibly vibrant and kind of the nucleus of this movement, but it's happening across the country. There are 22 other tech clusters across the country, and each one reflects the unique skills of people in that community, whether it's the universities they went to, the companies that are located there. But we're starting to see this vibrant movement everywhere in the UK, which is exciting.
And is that one of your priorities as well?
Well, I think we have a responsibility to look at innovation and support technology and growth companies all across the country. But we've been doing that through this vehicle, which is Tech City, and this initiative. And it's really exciting. And this is, we're right here in, really close to where everything's happening. And, if you're starting a business, there's no better place than Tech City.
What is your advice to young entrepreneurs? Because, of course, you come from Pennsylvania, not a place known for its for digital innovation, really.
No.
So in a way, London is as unlike, it's probably a more likely place to start a business. So what is your advice to young people? Because you say that we need a sea change in the way young people approach their future. They need to think not necessarily about, a lifelong job. They need to be more willing to take risk.
Well, I was looking at some statistics, and I think one statistic I read is that young people today will change jobs 16 times between now and when they're 38 years old. Now, that's a dramatic shift in employment in statistics. So what it's saying to me is that, growth businesses are changing. It's not, you don't get a job for life anymore. So looking at entrepreneurship as a credible career path is something that we're trying to encourage. In the US, the top 3 universities in Northern California, 20% of the students have already started a business before they leave college. So before they leave university, they're already thinking about building a startup. Now, after 2 years, 40% of them are already working in a startup. And that's a different mentality, but we're starting to see the same thing here. Last night I was at the 2nd anniversary of Entrepreneur First, which is a McKinsey-backed, actually it's backed by a lot of companies, but it's a really powerful program where they identify these fantastic computer science and graduates from the best universities, and they give them a year to create a business plan and to build a business around an idea. So it's identifying smart people and actually encouraging them to create a business on their own.
I mentioned to you that I spoke with Saul Singer when I was researching the piece on the London tech scene. Mm-hmm. He's known, of course, as the author of Startup Nation about Israel's tech scene, and it's been translated into 17 languages. And in his travels to promote this book, he found that every place he visited was blind to its own strengths. Yeah. Would you say the same observation, is accurate here? And if so, what are the main strengths of London, and also what area would you say is most in need of improvement?
Well, the funny thing about the UK, and I can say this because I'm actually American and British, but the funny thing about the UK is it's a self-deprecating kind of culture. We don't really shout from the mountaintops about our successes and what's great about us. Whereas in America, we would tend to, tell the world about our great, success stories. But what is happening here is, there's a great tradition of technology around finance. We just had Eric here from Level 39, and there's a lot of startups around the financial industry. Fashion tech is a big area in London, of course, with the fashion centers here. So we have a lot of fashion tech businesses happening. 3D printing in East London was the original place where the printing presses were and the big newspapers, and now then it was the digital presses and the newspapers, and now it's 3D printing, which is suitable. So you start to see strengths in traditional strengths in the economy coming out in new innovations around technology.
And in terms of the areas you'd like to see improvement, I mean, because obviously the flip side of being a self-deprecating culture is that maybe it doesn't necessarily want to shout about itself.
Yeah, I think that that's part of what we're trying to do with Tech City, is to really talk about the successes that are happening there. I mean, no matter where you go in Tech City, you can feel the energy. It's like, it's palpable, and there's so much dynamism and excitement around ideas. And no matter where you are, if you're in a coffee shop, people are talking about their startup, what they're trying to accomplish, and you can see this kinetic energy bouncing around the entire region. And it's a great place to be, because clusters have traditionally really supported, the growth of multiple businesses, and it feeds on itself because the energy is so powerful and supportive.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I mentioned to you, I also interviewed Richard Florida. He talks about the productivity that comes from proximity. Now you have an office in Tech City, or you're based there. So does that change your experience? I mean, how has that impacted, I don't know, your job, your day-to-day job?
I've worked in Silicon Valley. I've worked in Israel and Herzliya. I've been in these clusters in the past, and I've never really felt so much energy and excitement as I feel in East London, and it's just an absolute privilege to work. We're right by the roundabout, and we're right in the center of it all, and just to participate, it's the most inspiring thing to go there every morning and to be part of it.
Have you reached has the London tech scene, I wrote the London moment piece for Wired recently, so it was all about how London is hitting its moment. Has London hit its moment in your view, or is it still coming?
I mean, I have a bias maybe because I've lived here for 13 years, but I think it is the most dynamic city in the world. I mean, it has, as I said earlier, everything in one place, and such a multicultural city. I remember when I was at Facebook, there was a stat that, London had more English speakers than any other city in the world that were on Facebook. So if you wanted to test a product or, understand a sense of what people were thinking about a particular product or service, the best place to do it was on Facebook, which I thought was really interesting. There are more English speakers here, but yet it's a multicultural, diverse city, and basically supporting all kinds of people from all over the world. So I think it's the future. It's definitely the future city, absolutely.
So you're 6 months in. Now you look ahead. Do you have new priorities? Do things change?
Well, I think we look at supporting the entrepreneurial community all the way from creating ideas to, launching their businesses, hopefully on the London Stock Exchange with the high growth segment. But all along that path, there are things that we can do to support the journey. And I feel like the one thing we're going to focus on next that we haven't done yet is the skills side. There's so many fantastic organizations teaching coding, but I also think that we need organizations that teach people how to become great product managers and to define specifications for products, because that's as important to me as learning how to code, is to understand the consumer and the market requirements. And we're really good at that here in London and the UK, understanding consumer trends with our expertise in the advertising industry. And I think bringing those two together in skills development is really important.
So what about education? You mentioned coding. Again, I did the piece on Raspberry Pi, which has been a tremendous success. It's also British. How important is it? I mean, we're not going to really see these successes until 5 or 10 years out, right? When you talk about education.
Yeah. Well, what's encouraging is, if you go 3 years of university, but you don't really get the skills to start a business. But there's so many new avenues to learn coding, to learn about entrepreneurship that are coming together for people. And if you look at the massive online open courses, the MOOCs, you can study, the best course on entrepreneurship from MIT or Stanford from your home now. So I think the playing field has been leveled, and that learning is a lifetime pursuit. But what we'd like to do in this role is to try to pool together those programs and make people more aware of them, so that they can, learn the skills that it takes to go out there themselves and to, take their dreams and their aspirations and to launch a business.
Can I ask you quickly about the roundabout? I know late last year, the Prime Minister announced that there'd be a $50 million renovation of the Old Street roundabout. Some call it Silicon Roundabout.
Yeah.
How's that coming along? What will that look like?
Well, the Greater London Authority is in the process of consulting with the community. So there'll be they're set up for over the course of the summer to hear from the community how they want that project to evolve. So yeah, it's coming. Stay tuned.
And just finally, I want to ask you about Beyond Tech City. You did touch on this before, but someone that I think we've both been impressed by is I think her name is Julie Dean, who started the Cambridge Satchel Company,
yes.
who basically connected her creativity to the web. Will you be able to sort of branch out beyond Tech City and take this message, you think, to other cities like Cambridge? I mean, they don't really need it, but Sheffield, Manchester?
Well, just recently we started working over the past few months with other clusters across the country, and there are 22 that are working with us already, so we're sharing ideas, and we're, because we're in London, we can represent them sometimes, and they can give us ideas and various other things that we can take to government, so that's been working really well.
All right, thanks so much, Joanna. We're out of time. Please join me in thanking Joanna Shields.